Okay. What I wanted to do is just give you a little update on the things that we've covered so far, just in case there are a few questions still about the work that we're doing. So in processing, what you always want to do is you want to have the your screen set up like this, and all your global variables are actually going to go right at the top of your program. And global variables, it is in the lesson there, are just the ones that we have that'll work between all the different methods. So when we're trying to get something to move, we'd have to have variables up there. If in the variables lesson you're just trying to put something in place and not worry too much about where it's going, then you'll have them in the void setup or in the void draw. Okay. So the first thing after that, and what needs to be put into every program, is we need our void setup. And the void setup is where we put things that will appear on the first run. So the first time we hit run, whatever's in this void setup, which I have to spell setup right, will be what appears on the screen the first time. And this is where we always do the size. So if we do here 400 by 300, it'll make our window when we hit run for the first time. That's what there. It's kind of what do we want to be present on the screen the minute that it starts up. The other thing we usually do here is background. And I'm just choosing a random color, so I have no idea what this is going to be. Nice pink. So this is usually where we write code that's going to happen once, and we don't necessarily worry about it repeating itself. And that's what we were doing yesterday. We were just kind of putting shapes onto the screen and just seeing how they fit in that area. So that's like where we did rec. And if I do a rectangle at 30, 30, and then I make it a 70 by 70, it's actually going to be a nice square here. And it does it just in white because I didn't use fill. The 30, 30 is this top corner. It goes 70 across, 70 down. It draws a second point, and then it kind of makes that square there for it. It's almost like in Microsoft Word, if you've ever done it, where you kind of pull the picture in that diagonal corner to make that box there. Anytime you want to add a color, you have to do it right before. So if I fill, and if I do let's see what this does. So if you notice here, it filled it that color. You can, if you don't want the black outline and the border, you can do no stroke, or a good trick is what you end up doing is if you give the border the same color, it actually makes it look borderless. Because if you write no stroke, then all the borders get taken off. And if you wanted a border at one point, it just wouldn't come back. So it's not necessarily great to always do a no stroke because it might not work well. So everything before the shape applies. So you have to think about it like, get my paintbrush out. That's this, gold color, gold brown kind of color. Get that paintbrush out and then paint my rectangle, instead of get my rectangle out and now fill it. It's not like actual Microsoft Paint where like you draw the rectangle and then you can grab the paint can tool and fill it. You're actually saying grab the paintbrush and do it this color here. So that's how we would sort of draw random shapes on the screen the way we had them. The other thing that we usually have is the void draw. And this needs to be there. It doesn't need to have anything inside, but it needs to be present, because if we try to use void mouse press or void key press, which we'll use for sure next week, unless you have void draw, it actually won't do anything, because void draw allows our programs to repeat themselves over and over and over again, which we really, really want once we make things more interactive instead of the static images we were doing yesterday. We always need to ensure that we have these curly brackets set up correctly. These curly brackets contain our methods. So void setup is one of the methods, and it's contained here. Void draw is contained here. And why it's important, especially with void draw, is void draw repeats itself over infinitely until we stop the program. So right now it's fine because we don't have anything in there. So if I hit run with this new thing, it's not going to do anything here. But say, for instance, I want to go and I'm going to fill, I'm just going to make it plain. And I'm going to have to change the stroke as well, unless I want it to be this like golden outside with the plain inside. So if I have here ellipse, and I give it x, y, and I give it 30, 30. Now I'm going to get an error because there is no x and y, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it go up here, and I'm going to put it at 350. I'm going to put y at 90. So right away, all that's happening here is this circle is being drawn continuously in one spot, which really doesn't help much because that's not really helpful for doing anything there. What you could do, and this is where it is a little bit more fun, is one thing you could do is this. You could just pick random colors. Well, let's do. And what would happen here is, oh, there's no delay. So what's happening is it's drawing it black, red, black, red, black, red, black, red, black, red, black, red so fast that we actually don't have any delay there. I forget what delay is. But if instead we wanted to make this move, all we have to do here is say x is equal to x. And because we want to move to the right of the screen here, left, we want to move it from here to here, we're actually going towards 0, so we're going to subtract 1 every time. And if we do that and run it, what happens is this circle keeps getting drawn over and over again until it actually keeps going past that. It goes past here. It doesn't know to stop. We have to program that. That's where if statements will come in. Maybe I'll do it like this, and you can see it a little bit better. So notice how it's kind of dragging across the screen, because what's happening is every second it's redrawing one. That's 1 pixel to the right further. Now the issue is here is this, like we keep seeing it so it kind of smudges across the screen. If instead you wanted to make it look like it's moving on its own, you're going to have to redraw the background. Now, the rectangle's gone because I didn't redraw it in the draw. But if I add this in, what happens is that now this circle keeps going. It'll go over top of the rectangle because it's drawn in second, but it keeps it almost like the background kind of is itself, and then it just keeps like redrawing the background and then moving that circle by 1 pixel to the left every time. Which is super helpful because then it actually looks like it's moving across the screen. If we want to make it move in a diagonal way, all you have to do is move the y as well. So y plus 2. And this one will move it a little bit further down. So moving a diagonal, but it moves down further than it does across because our speeds are different. Oh, and plus 2, sorry, went down this way. If I want to go down this way, I have to do minus 2. Nope, minus 2. So when I do it this way, oh, no, it goes up that way. Oh, what? That's weird. No, not really. Sorry. Because 0 is up here in the y. 0 is here in the x, but plus in the y. If we had made it can't add by a decimal unless it's a float. So if we made it 1 and 1, now it kind of goes on that diagonal a little bit better. So it goes slower, it goes more diagonal. We'd have to make it, we'd have to make this instead of an int into a float, and then we could actually do decimals to make it move, which would be a lot nicer. the key is whatever you draw in, you need these curly brackets because they help tell the program what exists when this method happens. We use the setup a lot to get things organized and in order, especially when we start doing more complex programs. We'll do a lot of the setup for getting our variables set the first time, getting them like filling arrays when we get there. So the setup is super useful, but not in our basic sense yet.